All right. Good morning. Welcome back. And today I am here with not only one, but two Alexandras in studio. Luckily, one goes by Lexi and one goes by Alex, so there's no confusion, but super excited to have them both. They are both dear friends of mine, one since, seventh grade?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Wow.
seventh grade
Computer
Tech
class.
Lab. And then another, we just recently became friends through our sons 2 years ago now, so... Yes, but it's great to have them both in because we are going to be talking all things motherhood and, all the raw, real hardships to the beautiful moments. So welcome both Alex Schmitz and Lexi Wolf.
Hey. This is it.
Yes. Well, we're just going to kind of dive right in because, like I said, we're talking all things motherhood today. And so I have a series of questions for us all. And, like I said, just let loose. Don't hold back. We're gonna be talking all the raw and real moments of this beautiful thing called motherhood.
That it is.
Yeah, something like that.
So I want to first start off by having you both introduce yourselves a little bit because, obviously, if you've been listening for a while, you know me. I'm Hayley Tharp. I have two children, Beckham and Isley. My daughter she's 6.5. I have to say the half because she just had her half birthday. And if she hears this and I don't say 6.5, I'm in trouble. So she's 6.5 and my son is 9.5. He also just had a half birthday because, I have great timing and I had two kids with the same due date. But one
Are you
came.
serious?
Yeah.
They had the same due date?
Had the same due date, 3 years apart. Yeah. So September 3rd is my lucky
That's
day,
your lucky
apparently.
day.
Too bad they weren't the same gender.
I
Because then
know.
you have the same clothes. I wasn't smart.
That would be smooth. That would be.
And I had two girls, but in separate seasons. So
Opposite.
all my clothes, I had to get
It
all
did,
new
yeah.
clothes because the winter clothes didn't fit my...
Oh, yeah. You were
Yeah.
off season.
Yeah, my first was born in the
Right.
spring.
I
and
didn't
my
think
second was
about
born-
that because
I did not think about that either.
Because I've always thought, I was like, well, if we have a boy for our second,
Then you have
great.
everything.
I'll
Right,
just
we have
pass down
everything.
the clothes.
Have 'em in the
I mean, I
same
guess it
season.
would have
you
worked
would've
for me.
Yeah, that would have worked for you.
That would have been awesome. But yeah, so September 3rd was their due date. One came a week late, one came a week early. So
well, there you
I
go.
have an August baby and I have a September baby. So that is me in a nutshell. Alex, do you want to go ahead and talk
Sure.
about your two little ones?
I have a almost 3-year-old, two girls, both girls, and then a 6-month-old.
And should we
I-
tell them right now what is happening?
Oh,
We
I'm
are currently pumping.
I'm currently pumping.
in
It
lifetime.
doesn't get real mom than that.
No.
Ultimate, yeah.
She came in with the pumps on, and I was like, oh my gosh. Okay.
We're lucky you
This
can't hear
is-
it.
Yeah.
What else do you want to know? Do you want to know?
So, what are their names?
Layla is my oldest, Layla Kate, and then my baby is Cadence May. They're both very, very different babies. 2 different pregnancies, 2 different births, 2 very different babies.
Yeah.
And we're pushing through the toddler age right
Yeah,
now.
Don't miss that.
It's hard.
Yeah. I mean, I have to go back through the archives to remember that, but I think it's my brain giving me amnesia because
Probably.
You blacked it out.
Yeah,
You
but I
do.
think that's how we keep the human race alive.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
honestly, if we remembered
Right.
it,
Yeah.
we would not do
We
that
wouldn't
shit
keep
again.
doing it.
Same with birth.
Yeah,
Like-
right?
When
Yeah.
I was, I wanted 3, and when I was giving birth with my second one, I was like, okay, maybe just 2. That's fine. My husband was like, yeah, come to me in 6 months, and we'll see what you say then. Sure
Yeah.
enough, 6 months, you forget.
You're
Yeah.
like,
You
oh,
forget
maybe.
about the labor. You forget about delivery, and you're
Yeah.
like, I could have another one,
Right.
right?
It's the amnesia.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. My mom and
is.
I talked about it after I had Beckham, and I was like, and she's like, you must have the amnesia. Like, I do.
You done
Remember
forgot
how
about
much
it.
you hated that? No.
Right.
Okay.
So, Lexi, go ahead and tell us about your 2.
Yeah, I've got 2
yeah.
again. I have a daughter, Olivia Grace, who is 11 and a half. I almost said she's 10 and a half. She would have killed
You
me.
got to get that half
I
in there
know.
because I'm telling you.
Well, she's she's a July baby, and we put her into kindergarten like right when she turned 5. So she's like the young one in her grade. So she's like, I gotta like get credit for every month I've been alive.
Right.
I hate being the baby.
That was me. I mean, you remember, I'm the youngest in my class, and it was horrible. Everyone's getting their licenses.
She had to hitch rides with everybody.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, well, I'm still 14. Everybody's got their license, but great.
You're like, cool, no.
Yeah.
And then I have Colin, who's 9. He just turned 9. But they are the most different 2 children could be, actually.
Isn't that crazy? You would think that they would be like, you have one, you've got to figure it out.
Right. I'm like, you have been raised in the same place,
the same
people. Same way. You had most of the same teachers in school.
Yeah. Yeah, it is funny how they can be so different. And like mine, I mean, I'm an astrology girl, so I look at it from the point of like, I have 2 Virgos. Like, why are you guys different? But they are polar opposites. I mean, they like, my kids very well, and like, they're 2 different children.
And it's actually pretty funny because like your oldest and my oldest, I feel like, are so similar, and then our youngest are definitely 2.
Yeah. So what's the connection there? Is it
I don't know.
second?
Is it the second
that comes out? Yeah.
It's gotta be
is that how it is for you?
Is your second your crazy one? I mean, so little, but you can kind of tell some of those like personality.
I don't sleep.
Ever.
Yeah.
You're like, what was life before?
Who slept? What is sleeping?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out if she's trying to convince me like not to have more children, or like trying to convince me that she's already the middle child.
Yeah.
Which one is it?
So basically what you're saying is your amnesia has not hit yet.
It's maybe not fully.
You have not entered the amnesia
fully
phase.
Gotten all that.
Well, that leads me to talking about pregnancy. So we're going to go through pregnancy experiences. And, obviously we've talked a little bit about how our children are different. But talking pregnancy-wise, did you notice any differences? Did you have morning sickness with one, not the other, or both? And what were your cravings like? So, Lexi, I'll let you go first.
My girl was, my first pregnancy. So I don't know. Well, I did not know I was pregnant. Like, I wasn't trying to get pregnant. Actually, I was trying to not get pregnant. And one day I was just like Windexing a table, and I just like immediately threw up, and I was like, there's something wrong here.
It was the smells for me too with my first. I was like, now that you say that,
it wasn't like anything. It was just like weird, like smells all of a sudden were like not cool for me. And then the morning sickness hit, and it was rough. My whole first trimester was awful, and then the second trimester was that perfect glowy pregnancy. I'm big, like I'm pregnant, but I'm not like I want to like chop my feet off. My back hurts. Like. It was wonderful. But she was born in July, and she came 11 days late, and it was hot. Like, it was like 118 degrees. I was like, this is awful. I don't want to be pregnant anymore. Colin, I was pregnant. I was fine, like a little nauseous here and there, but his whole pregnancy, I at least maybe the amnesia hit, but I don't remember having like bad really anything with him until the end when I was like, everything hurts.
Were you someone that loved being pregnant?
With Colin? Yeah, I loved being pregnant with Colin. Like, I would have probably, if I could be pregnant,
and it was
like
winter
I was.
Time, that's so much nicer.
Yeah, and he was born in February, so it's like, I mean, I had to wear a coat. Wearing a coat was like awkward, but otherwise, like, I would rather be cold and giant than giant and just sweating everywhere uncomfortably.
I never got to have that phase of like big sweatshirts and just, comfy, cozy.
Just
I was like,
all the time.
Strip me, and I just need to be put in a
wearing
pool.
your husband's clothing.
Just laying
me in a
naked
pool.
on the tile, just trying to absorb the cold.
Yes, that was my experience. But that's amazing that you had at least one pregnancy that you like loved, because I am not that girl. I feel so lucky and grateful that I was able to have super easy pregnancies. Really. I mean, I cannot complain one bit. I'm just not a woman that loves being pregnant. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just I'm so vain that pregnancy just makes me feel not myself. I don't know. And I hate that I feel that way, but you know, I wasn't like I hated it. I was just definitely ready for the finish line both times.
Yeah.
Did you have morning sickness with your girl?
It was like, so I never was like vomiting or anything like that. It was more so just I had to lay in bed until like later in the morning to be able to just function because I was so dizzy, nauseous, just did not feel good until like, I want to say it was like 10 a.m. every day, which worked great because at the time I worked for my mom and my stepdad's restaurant. So, you know, they didn't open until like later in the day. If it was like a Thursday, I don't even think we opened till like 4. But what I'm getting at is like I didn't even have to go into work until like noon, like every day. So it worked out perfect. With my son, I didn't have any morning sickness. I didn't even know I was pregnant. I had the same experience.
I think it's a girl thing.
I think it is too.
Yeah.
I swore if I was sick, I was really sick with my first. Like, we would drive somewhere and I would open the door and just throw up outside.
Oh my gosh.
And
were you someone that had a hard time like gaining the weight that you needed because you were so sick?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I struggled getting pregnant with my first. Mm-hmm. And my OBGYN was like, I mean, it could be, eventually I was diagnosed with PCOS, which makes it hard to get pregnant. But she was like, you're underweight too. So I want you to eat a bowl of ice cream every night. So I did that. And then when I got pregnant, like
I don't think I've ever heard that like diagnosis. Is like eat ice cream.
Yeah. Ice cream. And so I wasn't gaining. Then I got pregnant, and when I got pregnant, I wasn't like gaining the weight she would prefer me to gain during a pregnancy. And so she was like, girl, have 2 bowls of ice cream if you want, like whatever you want. We gotta. And I still really didn't gain that much weight, but
wow. So you had the sickness with both your kids?
I had it with both, and they actually never prescribed me anything with my first, but then the second, she was like, you had so much trouble gaining weight. Your first one, we're gonna give you like, I think it was like Zofran or something.
Oh yeah.
So I was able to get that, but with my first one, I just had to do all the like remedies. I sucked on Gatorade popsicles. That was like the only thing that helped me.
Oh. Wow.
I wore those like C-bands. Oh. And I swore when I found out I was
I
pregnant,
wish I would have known about those with my daughter because I didn't
really
until
helpful.
Afterwards. And I'm like,
I
was trying everything. Ginger. I would chew ginger gum.
Oh, did that help?
Like all day. It was all in my head. I was like,
do you think it actually helped, or do you think you're like, this is helping?
It did not help me at all.
We're gonna survive this somehow with this ginger gum. Yeah. I also had the doctor told me that I could take. It was like a cough syrup, I think.
Oh,
and maybe I don't know. It was something that I would like drink, and like that was another thing that would like kind of subside the nausea.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was still.
I drink pickle juice all the time.
Really? Like to help nausea?
Yeah.
Oh.
And that that's still something like if I'm like super nauseous, I'd like a little couple sips of
pickle juice. I've literally never heard that.
No, it's a thing.
Okay.
Good to know. I hate pickles though, so that's going to be the hard part.
We always have pickles.
I might just, if I ever feel nauseous,
I might just like I don't
pinch my nose and put it down.
There's some science behind it, but I don't know what it is.
Like a pickle shot, right? Without the alcohol.
Right. Without the alcohol. Because baby.
Yeah. Wow. Well, so how were you guys induced?
Once.
Were either of you induced?
Twice. Yeah.
Both times? Yeah. No?
Nope.
You just like went naturally?
I went naturally. My first was 40 weeks and 2 days. And then my second, I was in preterm labor at 33 weeks. And I was on like modified bed rest for 3 weeks.
Ugh.
And at like when I went, they said you could go back to work because I'm on my feet all the time. They said you can go back to work at 37 weeks because then it's okay.
Right,
it's safe if baby comes. Which is my whole preterm labor story is like a whole thing. It was a wild night that we found out that I was, because I went to the doctor and I had been having like Braxton Hicks and they weren't painful. They were just, I could feel the like tightening.
Yeah.
And those aren't great. I have them all the time.
Is that your first or your second?
This was my second.
Okay.
And I had them with my first too, but it never came of anything. But my second, I'm like, I have these all the time. Mm-hmm. And she was like, okay, let's check you. Like, check for dilation. Sure. And this was at 33 weeks, and she was like, and this was in the office, and she was like, yeah, you're 3 centimeters already. So we're going to send you to the hospital, and you're going to, or they're going to like give you some medicines to try and stop the contractions. And they wouldn't stop. And they checked me at the hospital. This was like a 30-minute drive to the hospital, and I was 4 centimeters.
Oh, you were like, for real?
Yeah. So they thought
this is so new for me. I'm like, I had to force my kids
Oh my
out.
gosh,
I mean, this is crazy.
So my first came in 4 hours. My water broke at home.
Oh my God.
My water broke
so
at
you are
home.
like the stories that you see on the movies where they're like
Yes.
rushing.
Yes.
And like,
They
Oh
said
my
when I
God.
got there, they were like, first-time moms do not go this fast. Like, they said, your second baby's probably going to come in half the time.
Oh my
and
gosh.
they looked at Jared and they said, for the third one, you're catching.
Goodness gracious.
And I was like,
my gosh.
That'll make you want to have a third one.
what?
So that's why the amnesia hasn't
Right.
kicked
Oh
in.
my God.
Right.
He's
So
like-
they actually, when I was like 4 centimeters, they couldn't get the contractions to stop. They airlifted me to Barnes.
Oh my
Oh my
gosh. I don't
God.
think I knew this.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, because they didn't want me to have a baby in an ambulance.
Well, yeah.
Wow.
It was crazy.
But they got to just
So
stop.
your daughters are growing up with some
Oh,
crazy
Yes.
birth
and,
stories.
And it ended up that I like went into, I don't know, or do you have questions on like the labors and stuff?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
or-
take it.
Oh, okay.
Go.
So like when I went back to work at like 37 weeks. I went a couple days earlier, and she was like,
She did.
she was like, yeah, you can go back to work, but you're probably going to go into labor. And sure enough, I had gone to work for like 2 half days. And that night I didn't even feel anything. Like my contractions never hurt. They were just, I could
You have a
tell.
very active job though.
Yes,
right,
I do.
Yeah.
I'm on my feet all the time,
Yeah.
like all day long. And which is probably why I went into
Right, I was
labor.
going to say, well.
right.
And I just felt like pressure. So I'm like, and they told me, if you feel anything different, you need to come in. So I went in, and they were like, yeah, you're 6 centimeters. And I was like, okay. But I tried to like I like waited overnight, tried to get my water to break, wouldn't break. So finally they had to manually break it. And sure enough, my labor was like an hour and a half.
Wow.
My like labor where I was actually in pain after my water broke to when baby was
Wow.
here.
Did
was
you have an
hour and a half.
epidural?
No.
For either or just, wow.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Wild.
That is
Yeah.
Really cool.
I will clap for any woman that doesn't have an epidural because
no way.
I don't think there was time.
Yeah, you
for
probably-
you, that's why I asked because I'm like, do you even did they even do it at that stage? I mean,
They would have done it on my first, and they were like, "Do you want one?" And when I got there, my water broke, and we drove 30 minutes, whatever. Got to the hospital, and I was 7 centimeters already.
wow.
And they were
That's
like,
amazing.
"Do you want an epidural?" And I was like, "Well, I'm fine right now."
I've gotten this far.
And then 30 minutes later, it was like balls.
You're
Right.
like,
Pain.
you're a freaking Viking.
God.
Like,
I
I'm
know
like,
that.
holy shit.
Like you
I
could be
know.
Little House on the Prairie.
I
like you could
know.
just home birth.
Let's
Yeah.
not. No. That's like my worst nightmare.
I feel like I was such a baby. I mean, I have heard that. So I was induced with my first one. And I have heard that in being induced is like a different experience with contractions and whatnot, because basically like the medicine's like forcing your body into labor.
Mhm.
I was, stubborn in my head. I was like, I'm going to try to not do an epidural,
Sounds like it.
And so I got induced. I had an 18-hour labor with Beckham, my first.
Wow.
It was horrible. I mean, I guess it was the labor itself was horrible because it was so long. The birth was not horrible. I actually had a really decent situation there. So, but it was being induced. I think they started my like drip at like 2 p.m. And
Did you go in because you
yeah,
were
yeah,
like,
I was.
having
He was a week
contractions?
late. Yeah, no, he was a week late. I was 41 weeks when, or I was like right at 41 weeks when he was.
So you weren't having contractions. You just went
No.
in for an induction.
Yeah, because
Gotcha.
my doctor
No.
was like, "Well, I'm not going to let you go past 42 weeks."
Mhm.
And me being, I mean, let me just let everyone know, I was 20 when I had my son. I just turned 20. So, I was young. I was not really sure how this whole thing worked. And I was
Right.
like, just get this baby out. Yeah. Like,
Let's do it.
I'm
Let's
a
have
little
it.
girl and he's already big. So let's go.
He's a big boy.
So, so I was like, yeah, let's just get it going. So, they started at 2, and then by like 11:30, I was just in so much freaking pain.
Yeah.
Like Billy would try to talk to me, and I'm like, shut up, just shut up. Like I don't want to. I can't talk. My mom was like, do you want to sit on the ball? Do you want to get in the bath? And I'm like, I can't move. I can't move. Just like do something. So finally I caved and I was like, yes, get the anesthesiologist in here. Cause
let's do it.
Give me the juice. Like what's that movie? Baby Mama or whatever. Yeah, I was like, give me the drugs. And so they brought him in. Thank God it went perfect. He was actually really great. I like had such a good experience with that because I know some people have horror stories with the epidural.
Can they go on both sides? Did you do like where they hit the nerve and like half your body goes numb?
No, it was like perfect.
Oh, what?
Good God.
Don't even know what that would be like.
Both times.
This is why I don't want an
happened to me
epidural.
both
Oh my
times.
gosh.
It was the worst.
Oh, so yeah, that did not happen. I had a great experience, and then it was really crazy because I wish I would have gotten it earlier, because I probably would have had him so quickly. I wouldn't have been in labor for 18 hours because when I finally got it at like 11:30 p.m., he was like out shortly after that. Like it was in no time. I finally dilated and they were like, yeah, he's coming. And I'm
Probably
like,
because you were able to relax.
Because I was relaxing. But before I was like so tense. I just like wasn't allowing my body to do its thing. So yeah, I'm like, that was my one regret of my first labor is I'm like, well, I have two regrets. I don't think I would have gotten induced if I could have helped it. I do wish I would have let my body do its thing and go a little longer. And then my second thing is I do wish I would have gotten, if I would have went through with an induction, I wish I would have gotten that epidural sooner.
Did you get that epidural sooner with Isley?
So with Isley, she was breech.
Oh.
So she was so wedged in my ribs with her head and like her butt was down in my hips. And we went in for, I want to say it was because she's a week early. So we went in for like my 38-week appointment. And he was like, yeah, she's still breech. We can try the inversion. I think that's what it's called, where they flip the baby. So he explained it to me and I was like really teetering on it. I was like, okay, maybe I'll do it, but then just something in me, and call it mom tuition, I don't know. But I was just like, no, I think because C-section was like the last plan in my mind. Like I was like, what do you mean I have to be cut open? Like I've never had surgery. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be cut open. Like what do you like I'm going to have this huge scar across my stomach. Like I was freaking out. I mean, I think I cried for like 3 days when I found out that I was going to have a C-section. And lo and behold, it's not that bad. So I will get there.
It's okay.
I've seen you in a bikini. It's fine.
So I was freaking out. And they were like, we can still try the inversion. I'm like, no, just something in me just was like, no, I don't want to do that to her. Because at the end of the day, like it could have still ended up in an emergency C-section. Right. And the way that my doctor explained it to me was like, that could almost be worse than just scheduling the C-section. Right. So I'm like, I don't know about all that. Well, come to find out when I go in, I had the C-section. He had to actually tug her out of me. Lord. Billy passed out. They had to literally give him oxygen, like in his nose.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he's going to hate me for telling this story, but I love you, Bill. Sorry. They had to give him oxygen in his nose because he passed out because they were shaking my body to get her out, because like he had to tug.
Like the visual.
Traumatic.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my
God. To hear him tell it is so bad. But I don't know that it was. I
think have a dad talk.
Yeah, I know.
Where they talk about
we bring him in and they're like, oh no.
Oh goodness.
And like Billy, he watched the whole thing. Like he was like, I was good the whole time. And then it was the tugging that like made the moving
Couldn't
of
do
you
the tugging.
made me freak out. And so they once the birth was all done and my doctor had talked to me, after I was all sitting upright and normal, he was like, it's a very good thing you did not have the inversion because she was so stuck in your hips.
She's like holding on your
ribs.
It
it would have been an emergency C-section. Like it would have probably been bad. And I was like, oh my God, okay. So mom tuition is a real thing.
Listen to yourself.
Yes. I always.
That's like when I said when I was at the doctor's and I'm like, I have these contractions. Yeah. This is not normal.
Yeah.
Like thank goodness
You said something.
I said something, because if I didn't,
You probably would have went home and had a baby.
I would just went to work, and I could have had my baby at work.
Yeah, I feel like you have an inner knowing, and it was a crazy experience. But yeah, Bill, thank God my mom was in the room, because she had to cut Isley's umbilical cord.
Because
Bill, I felt so bad for him.
Bill was horizontal. He was
you
not.
can even see him, like Billy, he works in construction, so he's a naturally like tan dude. You can even see in pictures of like right after Isley's born, he is like a ghost. He's just like holding her. I'm like, God love you. I don't know. He's like, we almost lost him.
Did he cut the umbilical cord with
Beckham? Yes, he did.
So
So he got one
he had
kid
the
at least. I know that is like a huge regret of his, but I give him a lot of grace, because I'm like, I don't think I could have watched that if the roles were reversed.
No way.
So, kudos to men who can stick there and watch it go down. Men or women, can sit and watch a birth.
Recommend dads watching, even like.
You do or you don't?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like Jared always said before Layla, like, no, I'm going to stay up by your head. Like, and then like it all happens right there. Yeah. So you can't really not.
I feel like it's a way for the men to, or the opposite spouse, to connect to
what's happening.
The birth, because like we are pregnant, like we are connected from day one,
right?
And so that's what my experience is of Billy, like being able to watch and be there. Like I think that was like his connecting moment of like, oh my God, I just watched this life happen.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Jared was like amazing. He was just like, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, just watching the whole thing, which I don't know.
It's a bonding moment.
I don't know if I could
sure.
watch it.
Well, and it's crazy because you know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like it's not like,
but until you see
it, like we've seen the videos, but until you like experience it and like in real, all the.
That's
everything.
why I love. So like, obviously, I'm a photographer. I've done a couple births, but I've never.
You've done births.
Like, I've shot like I think 2 or 3 births.
I would have loved that.
Yeah, but I can't even look at birth story photos without crying, because I think like once you experience that emotion, like it's unlike any other. Because I was not emotional with Beckham. Like I was just kind of like, I'm in pain. I need to get a baby out. And then it's like I wasn't thinking about being emotional. And then it's honestly one of my favorite pictures of me having
this
Beckham.
Picture.
Because my mom took it. They like took him and like put him on my chest, and I just like lost my mind. I was just like, oh my God.
I know that exact picture you're talking about.
A baby.
Yeah, it's a shocking it's an unreal emotion.
The craziest.
I think.
I have pictures with Cadence, but Layla, I did not have. I didn't get anything because
during.
Like during, because it was during COVID.
Oh my gosh.
So like I couldn't have anybody except for my husband, like, and we're lucky because there's some places where they wouldn't even let
anybody.
So it was 21.
I am so sorry.
Yeah.
Like that is just the craziest.
So I like I said earlier, I struggled a little bit to get pregnant. It took about a year, and then I finally got pregnant. I found out I was pregnant in like July of 2020, and both Jared and I were both furloughed from work because we work in healthcare, and so nobody was going anywhere.
Right.
So we were both off work for a little while, and I found out I was pregnant, and then like the week later I had to go back to work during COVID, working in a hospital.
That's scary.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then I had her in March of 2021, and it was all during COVID. And
I don't know how healthcare workers did it back then, honestly.
Wild.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That was an intense couple of years.
Yeah. So it was weird.
Yeah.
It was just weird. Like Jared couldn't go anywhere. We were there for probably 3 days or something. Nobody could come visit me. Jared couldn't leave or come. Like if he left, he couldn't come back.
That's so crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. And my mom wanted to be there so bad. And she said that she this was in the middle of the night. She just got on her coat so many times. She's like, I'm just going to go sit in the parking lot.
And I know your mom, so it just this breaks my heart.
I know, and then I was like, I can't do that. Yeah. And then would do it again. And so she didn't get to experience any of it. So I had her in the room when I delivered Cadence.
That's good. Yeah. So was it just her and Jared in
just
the
her
room?
And Jared.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for me with both my kids. It was just my mom and Billy.
Yeah.
Because I'm like for my first, like it was a natural birth, and I'm just like a very modest person.
Yeah, I'm not
so what?
Did that all go out the window though?
It did after my kids.
Right,
But like prior to my first, I just like I grew up in a very modest household. Like I have a brother 2 years younger than me, so it wasn't like I just would walk around the house in my undies or anything like that. So it was just, it's just like it's a natural thing for me to just be a modest person. And I was like, I'm not going to have, my hoo-ha out there, legs in the air, and like everyone just being like, hey,
Happy birthday, Becca.
Yeah, right. Oh, there he is. Like, yeah, no thanks. It was just my mom and Billy for both. And my second, I was going to have China in the room. But then when the C-section was the plan, it was a totally different thing. And actually, it was like a crazy thing that my mom was even allowed in the room because normally they only allow one person. Yeah.
So they just make an exception?
They did because my mom, the guy my doctor who delivered both my kids, he delivered Tegan.
Oh.
So he's been my mom's doctor for like 20 years. And
he's
so,
like, come on in.
Yeah, he was like, Kelly, come on.
It's fine.
So who did you have in the room for yours?
My first one was Olivia Grace. Well, I tried to have, my mom was like, I want to be in there. I really want to be in there. So I was like, okay. So it was Adam and my mom, and I was induced for both of mine. So with OG, we went in like 6 a.m., and then she was not delivered until like midnight. So we were 18 hours in there.
Wow.
But
no wonder our firsts are like
unreal to me.
My mom.
You just camp out. You're just like, well,
she was supposed to be born June 25th. It was her due date. And then they were like, oh, okay, well, you're a week, after a week or 41 weeks, whatever. But then it like fell 4th of July. And they're like, well, we don't really like to have people that are being induced over holiday. Mm-hmm. So we'll induce you on July 5th. And then she was born July 6th. And I was like, could someone please make this baby not be in my body anymore?
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a holiday.
At that point, you're just
I'm like,
uncomfortable.
the nurses are here. It's fine.
Yeah, they're here anyways.
Right? Like, it's not like they're off.
It's
if I don't have
doctor doesn't want to be there, maybe.
That's exactly it.
He's like, well, I'm going to be enjoying fireworks.
Right.
You can wait.
The lake.
Yeah. I'm going boating that day. Sorry.
But with her, my mom really wanted to be in there. So she was in there all day. And then when it started to go down, I started to push. She got real pale.
Oh.
And was kind of stumbles McJumbles, and the nurses they had to bring extra nurses in and lay her on the couch and feed her graham crackers. And I'm like,
God.
I'm trying to have a baby over here. Could we give me some attention? Yeah. And everybody's over there making sure she doesn't pass out. So
then second kid, you were
the second kid, I was like, I don't think this is for you. I don't think this is for you. So second kid, it was just Adam and I, and we were fine. My sister at that point was interested in maybe being a nurse, and so I had her come in to watch me get my epidural with Colin, and they I don't know, they hit something in my spine and half my body. It was the worst electrocution feeling.
Was it right away, or was it progressive?
No, it was all of a sudden. It was just immediate, the worst. I would rather. The contraction felt better than what they did. And it hurt for a little while, and then it went away, and then my epidural kicked in, and it was fine. But I was like, that's not supposed to happen. And she's like, well, sometimes it's just hard to get the right spot. And I'm like,
and it happened with both, or just one?
Well, it happened with Olivia, but it was just a little bit. With Colin, I was like, am I paralyzed on this side now?
Yeah.
Was this your first or your second?
My second, when it was real bad.
If you had another one, would you get an
I don't
epidural?
know. See, but I had to be induced both times because Colin, at my 38-week appointment, they're like, this baby is going to be huge. Which, if you saw Colin, he is the scrawniest little kid. And he came out.
Funny to hear that he was a big baby.
And I'm sorry that I'm going to say this, Colin, but he was the most fetusy looking baby when he was born. I don't know. There was something about him that I'm like, you definitely should have been cooked a little longer. So they induced me at 39 weeks because they were
especially when Olivia was 42 weeks?
Yeah, she was almost 42 weeks, but she was only 7 pounds, 10 ounces. And so she would have been like a peanut. if she would have been on time. And then with him, though, they were like, oh, he's going to be huge. And I was like, well, I really don't want to end up having a C-section. So let's just all get induced so I can have him naturally. And then he came out 7 pounds, 10 ounces. And I was like, you are not a big boy.
Wow.
I could have held you in
Cooked
for
you in
another
a little
week and you would have looked a little, I don't know, a little less, a little plumper.
I don't know.
A little plumper.
I don't know.
Don't you think they look so cute when they come out?
Oh,
And
like
you
when he
look
came
back,
out, I was like, oh my God, you're the cutest thing ever. Now I look at pictures and
you
I'm
look
like,
at pictures and you're like,
fetusy.
Yeah.
ugh.
OG was like chunky. Like, I mean, she was light, but she was like round and all like, her skin was all filled out.
Yeah. Both my kids were little chunkers. Yeah, Isley was a little skinnier than Beck, but Beck was a hoss. I mean, I was like, I remember looking at him like across the room in the scale, and I was like,
That
lived
was in
inside
here.
me.
I just pushed him out. Like that explains why my hips grew
Right.
2 sizes. But okay.
That's why I can't walk.
Yeah,
You
right.
recovered.
I've recovered. Yeah, you recovered. The amnesia, the
Yeah.
recovery,
Yeah.
it all happens. So we know you breastfeed. Did
Yeah.
Currently.
you breastfed your first too?
Yep. Yep, for 16 months.
16
Wow.
months. Wow.
Mhm.
That's amazing.
So why did you end up quitting? You're just like, it's been long enough, or
Teeth.
No, I breastfed her through teeth.
Teeth,
I
that's
breastfed
teeth,
her. It's hard in the beginning when it's like 15 times a day.
Yeah.
But it gets really manageable, like after they're eating solids and maybe you're only doing it like 4 times a day.
Mhm.
And I was just like, I've come this far. Like, I was doing it 6 times a day. Now I'm only doing it 3 times a day. Like, I
Wow,
can do
yeah.
this.
Yeah.
I think I got like,
So it just
I
becomes
think
like
I
your
got
habit.
addicted to it. I was
Yeah.
like, how long? How long can I do this?
Yeah.
But I don't know. She just was getting busy. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
So
I don't know
what's
if
your
I'll-
plan with this one?
I don't know if I'll go that long with this one. Layla was very like, she would just lay there and she would nurse for, just calmly. And I didn't have any babies or like other children.
Right.
And so I would just read.
Like, this is
I would
relaxing.
sit there
This is
and read
easy.
and I would just go through books because she would nurse for like a half an hour at least.
Wow.
And with this one, no, she's like squirming and like I'm trying to tell Layla to like I'm yelling at her to
Yeah.
go do this and
With the toddler.
she and every time she hears Layla's voice, she like pops off and like looking over here and
It's that second child.
oh my god!
I'm telling you, they're
so
the
I'm like,
movers.
we get to a year. If
Yeah.
we get to a year, we're good.
We're good.
Right.
Wow.
We're good.
Well, so I'm assuming then you had easy experiences, or did you have any challenges?
With breastfeeding?
Yeah.
With Layla, 100%. I think that was the most stressful thing of like the first few weeks postpartum. Like my milk came in really late, and so all these like the lactation consultant was like telling me, "Oh, it should be in now. Like you need to be getting more than this." Like I feel like I don't know about your guys' experience, but like I feel like moms are not given the support they need. Like
Yeah,
I hear
no.
of so many people that are like, "Oh, she wasn't getting it out. Like they weren't transferring the milk." Okay, why?
Yeah.
Why are they not? Figure out why they're not getting it out,
Mhm.
like tongue ties, lip ties, whatever.
Yeah.
But it took me a long time, and they were having me to get my milk to come in. They were like having me nurse her, and then supplement with formula. My husband would give her a bottle, and then while he was doing that, I would pump to like stimulate my body to make more milk, and I would save that milk, and he would give that to her the next feeding after she nursed, along with formula.
Yeah.
And this was every 2 hours, and it was exhausting. And finally, like, my saving grace was my sister-in-law, and she came over and she was like, "Just put the pump away, Alex. I know they're telling you to do these things, and that you can follow whatever they're
Right.
telling you to do, but I'm telling you, just put the pump away for a couple of days and see how it goes. Just nurse her. Whenever she looks hungry, just nurse her. Just go with what you feel." And that was like, it was like a switch.
Oh my gosh.
Everything came in. I wasn't
Yeah.
stressed.
Yeah.
It was.
I think that's a lot of it because
it is.
That
I
was
feel like
my
they stress you
situation.
out.
I got so frustrated. I really tried with my first. I really did. And I just got so frustrated. I was pumping. I had pretty much same experience as you. So I was pumping. Billy was supplementing with giving him the formula, and like then I was pumping, and then he would like feed him a little bit of like what I had pumped sometimes, and I mean we were just trying to make it work, but it just was not working. And like you said, I didn't feel like I had enough support or resources with like what to do. I mean, I'm a 20-year-old mom, like first time mom.
What you're doing.
I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
I was 27. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, and a first time mom, like you just don't know. And I mean, I was just like getting so frustrated. I also wasn't given the education of like how hydrated I needed to keep myself, foods that I could have been eating to promote milk production. And then it led me to ending up, I got mastitis because I just like, I got a clogged duct, and then it was that ultimately is what ended my breastfeeding cycle. I think I did it for 2 weeks with Beckham, and I was I don't know if either of you had mastitis, but it is like
I've never had mastitis,
the
but
worst.
I've had clogged ducts, and those are enough.
Oh my gosh. I was so sick. Like I could barely, and I have a 2-week-old, you know.
I feel like you have the flu, right?
Oh, it was, yes.
Yeah.
Fever. I mean, it was horrible. I feel like it was the worst flu I ever had. God. And would not wish that on my worst enemy. But, and so, then with Isley, I think my first experience was just so rough. And then my second, I had a toddler running around, and I was just automatically like, no, I'm not even gonna try
go
this.
there.
So, yeah. Did you breastfeed?
With Olivia Grace, I tried, and I was like, she wouldn't latch, and they were like, okay, well here, use this nipple shield and use this, and like I'm like, okay. So, I mean, we supplemented and I pumped and we did all those things for like 4 or 6 weeks. And then it was just like, no one here is rested. No one here is happy. We're all like passing the baby around. Like, okay, she drank, but I don't think she latched long enough. And it's like, I'm breastfeeding for an hour, but it's like she's latched, she's unlatched, she's latched, she's unlatched. How much did she have? We don't know.
That's the hardest part is you're like, I think they had enough. I don't know.
Yeah, you have no idea
guessing.
what they're taking.
And that was, I'm like, oh my gosh. And then when we had left the hospital, she had lost some weight. And so they were like, well, we need to get her back up, you know? And so then I'm like, is she going to get up back up to her birth weight? And
that is another thing
it's
that
like
I feel like they stress
stressing
you out
about their weight.
Birth
and
weight,
then,
yes.
I was terrified.
Babies lose birth weight. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they do. They are like, we got to get it back up. Your milk's not enough, and they make you feel like you're not enough.
Yeah.
And
I almost feel like I gave Beckham like a little bit of acid reflux by being so scared that I wasn't feeding him enough. Once we switched to formula, because I was like, oh my God, he needs to eat. He needs to eat.
Right.
And so then he would eat, but he'd be like so overfull, then he'd spit it up. And it was just like a cycle. And finally we got it figured out. We got him on the right formula, and the rest was history. But it was getting to that point. I was just under so much stress. And I think that's a huge factor about the breastfeeding too, is like if you are stressed out, like you are not going to produce milk like you need to. It's
well, I feel like if you're tense, you're like, you need to relax.
Yeah,
like, you need to be able to like, and
you need to read a book.
Yes.
No, I was like,
with your first.
I was like so tense, and
and
I felt like, you know, there's so much pressure on you, and for me, I was the first one of all of my friends to have a kid. Like,
so was
I had nobody else.
I'm sure you were.
I definitely
I was like, you probably definitely were.
Definitely.
I didn't have anybody else to be like, you know, it's okay. Like, it's going to get better. I mean, my mom's, you know, you can do it, whatever, but it's not the same. I don't know. And my mother-in-law she bottle fed all of her, like they all did formula. And she was like, if it's too much for you, like you need to be able to sleep. You need to be able to function and not be stressed all the time. Like if you just need to give her formula so that you feel better that she's eating and you can sleep and you're not in pain. And I was like, okay, like it's going to be okay. I'm not a bad mom.
It is a relief when you get to that point of being like,
formula.
Okay. It's
you
okay if I feel
okay.
I
can, maybe, you know. But then with Colin, I mean, we had a little bit at first, like the latching and stuff, but he did pretty good. His thing was, I don't know if you can have ADD at, you know, a week and a half old. I don't know. But he would be like,
I mean, knowing him
and
now,
I know.
maybe.
And then he'd be like, just like reaching for my hair, just looking around. And then he'd have a little more and then he'd play. And I'm like, dude, I have a toddler.
Yeah.
I cannot do this with you. Like, I love you. And I love that, like, you know, bedtime and stuff. Like when Adam could keep Olivia Grace, it was like, okay, like I could do that. But when you're only breastfeeding like twice a day and then you're trying to pump, it's like your supply doesn't keep up. And so I don't even remember. I think we maybe did 2 months with him, but it was so much easier than she was. I think if he would have been my first, we would have been like golden. I probably could have made it several months, but the toddler and the breastfeeding,
it does make
like
a
whole.
game changer.
It's like, hey, this is a really hard game. Now let's like throw another piece in there that doesn't.
Yeah, and Billy he works construction. I mean, and he's a union operator at the time. They don't give you paternity leave. So like,
don't even get me started.
I know,
on paternity and maternity leave.
I was like, no,
he had to go back. I mean, I think we had Beck on he was born on a Sunday, I think, and he had to go back to work like Wednesday or Thursday. I mean, it was like a short because we couldn't afford for him to not go back to work, and so I was like, you know, thank God I had my mom. I had lots of people, my grandma, you know, I had a bunch of different people that would stop in, but it wasn't like a 24-hour live-in help, you know. Right. So there were times that like I just had to figure it out on my own without them there, and just having a C-section. I have a toddler running around, and that's why the first day home from the hospital, I was like, nope, she's gonna be formula fed. Like, sorry, Isley, love you, babe, but mommy can't do it.
Right. Well, and it's like, if all your energy is going into that, there's like, you're missing other pieces. Like, I just feel like you can't.
Yeah. So that leads me to my next topic, postpartum.
Oh.
Did you guys have postpartum depression at all, or that you know of? Or?
I had depression before I got pregnant. So I was like, I mean, I am like, I've been medicated for anxiety and depression and ADD like my entire life. So, after I had Olivia, my OBGYN at the time was like, we're going in this, like knowing you're like at a higher risk for, you know.
Yeah, I can, because it's just like a surge of so many different things on top of that.
Yeah. And so, and with her, I actually feel like I felt better. Like, I don't know if it was the extra hormones or what, but I was like, I mean, I was prepared. I think maybe I just over-prepared to be just like the craziest new mom, like the just crier and the I can't do this. But I mean, I was overwhelmed with some things like breastfeeding and everything. But overall, I was actually pretty proud of myself that I did okay. And then with Colin, he was born. We got home. Adam went to work like that Monday, and they laid him off. And so I was only working part-time before I had Colin. And so I didn't have any like FMLA pay coming in. He got laid off. We're like, perfection. We have 2 kids, no jobs. And that between that and the toddler and him searching for a job, and that was very overwhelming for me. And that we had a lot of like, okay, I need you to take the kids. Like, I need to be alone, or I need to, like, I would go hang out with his mom. Like, I needed space almost from my kids because I was so overwhelmed. And I feel like as a mom, especially with a new baby, when you are like just so tense and stressed and emotional, I feel like the baby like feels that. They get that. And then they're stressed and tense and upset. And I'm like,
it's a vicious cycle.
I don't need my kid to have like all of these awful feelings that I'm having. And so let's separate. And
I feel like they're a lot more susceptible at that when they're young like that too, because they literally just came into the world.
Right.
Like, they're just trying to figure out how to breathe at this point.
And
so I feel like they're
to swallow.
Sponges.
Like,
so
that's I don't know. I just think when there's like just so many contributing factors, and you already have a predisposition for crazy, which I kind of, that's like my, I'm crazy. But I mean, I was already medicated. Then they took me off medicine when I was pregnant with Colin because there's some medicines you can't take when you're pregnant. And so then it was just like a lot of, hey, let's try new medicine and let's see where we land. But
yeah, so your body is literally going like this.
Correct.
And you're trying to just keep it at a plane.
Yeah, I'm just trying to walk in a straight line.
Yeah. Wow. That's hard.
So it's.
Well, you have two amazing kids.
They survived.
So
I survived.
You're doing it.
You did a great job.
Right?
You guys did.
Still today.
And Adam has an amazing job now.
And it worked out. It was fine.
It's
Actually,
a full success story.
It was a blessing in disguise. He ended up in a way better position than he was in before. But it was a roller coaster for sure.
Wow.
I was like, without a new baby, this would be stressful.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Now let's add sleepless nights and...
Yeah, all the things that no one prepares you for. But how can you? You
right.
know, you
There's
can't prepare
no way.
for that.
There's no way
or
to
at least
prepare.
you don't want to.
Right.
Yeah. Did you have postpartum depression at all?
I don't know that I would say depression. I would say definitely postpartum anxiety. I'm already an anxious person, like you said. Like you start out that way. That's your baseline.
That's a very real thing. I feel like a lot of people don't even realize that they deal with. I think it kind of goes hand in hand with postpartum depression, but I totally get what you mean by the postpartum anxiety.
And so like it just is heightened, you know, because you're already, your hormones are all crazy and you're worried about this little baby,
right?
And you're worried about your self-healing. So like any little thing that would happen, like if I don't know, like if she would puke, I'd be like, oh my gosh, Cher, do you think she's okay?
Yeah.
You say, yes, she's okay. Like I would go off the deep end on things. Did you guys fill out that questionnaire like every time you went anywhere for a year?
Yeah. Yep.
I fill out this questionnaire.
Oh, about your mental
health.
Yes.
Anytime I go to the pediatrician.
Yeah.
Anytime I go to any doctor, you got to fill out the same.
Yep.
Yeah. And with
is it like the first year of
first year.
their life? Yeah. Okay. Because I obviously don't fill it out anymore, but I maybe need to.
I know, right?
At my son's 10-year appointment, I should probably.
They're going to be like, "How are
you
dealing with
I am unwell
and depression?" Yes, but like, so that's my baseline. So my scores would always be like way high.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, okay,
are you
let's
okay?
Look at this.
Are you okay?
And my husband would be like, she's anxious anyways, so like I'm not worried about her. Yeah. But then it didn't take me until I had my second, and I realized that I was scoring so much lower on my I wasn't.
So you had it more with your first than you did your second. I had it way more
with my first than I did with my second, and maybe it's because you kind of know, even though babies are different and you have your own challenges with each baby, but you're gonna make it. What you're doing.
Like, okay, it's gonna be okay.
You can kind of figure stuff out. So, like with my second, I was way better, which is crazy because my first was my easy baby, and my second was my colicky baby.
And with your second, you have a toddler too.
Yeah, you have a toddler. I feel like you feel really needed all the time. Like I just felt like
with having two.
Yes.
Yeah. Two is a game changer. I see a lot of people ask like, is there much of a difference between one to two?
Gosh.
Oh yeah.
And you don't think so.
My gosh.
Like I remember when we were thinking about trying for Isley, and I was like, I mean, I got this handled, you know.
Right.
But Beckham was like, I mean, the kid raised himself from the time he was born. So like he was such a good baby, such a good kid. I mean, like it was like, I was like, this is a piece of cake. What are people talking about? Well, wait till Isley's born.
Just wait for that second baby.
She's just, she's like a very loud personality. Yeah. Like and she's always been that way. I mean, since day one, God love her. She's going to be a CEO or something one day. But she is just, it was a totally different situation.
She is smart, and that girl will take charge.
Yeah. My in-laws always say that Cadence, my little one, is my husband. Yeah. Like, they're like, wow, this is like looking at Jared.
I said
and I'm
that
like,
to Billy.
Thanks, Jared.
It's funny. Yeah, Beck's a lot more like me, and Isley is a lot more like Billy. They have very similar.
I don't know.
Yours?
Yeah.
That is Colin's more like you.
I was going to say, I feel like Colin and I are a little more fly off the seat of your pants.
Yeah, Olivia is a lot more like Adam, I would say.
She's definitely the organized, the planner. They're going to get it done.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Adam and I are both firstborns, and so you'd think we'd both have more of that. And I am so like, I mean, I get bossy about I have my things. Don't worry about it. But no, Colin and I are just like, let's go. Yeah. Let's keep going. We should stop. Funny. But we're not.
Because, that's what, like, I feel like we have our kids sometimes, too. Like, I don't know if you guys have this, too, but, like, whenever, Beck's having a hard day or
the one
something,
they go to.
Beck always goes to me. Yeah. And I feel like Isley is definitely, I mean, she's definitely attached to me as her mom, but, like, she is a daddy's girl. Like, if any kind of minor inconvenience happens in her life, she's like,
Daddy.
Dad! I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm chopped liver.
Right.
But I feel like it's just because we can manage them better because we get them more. I feel like we're more aligned personality-wise. And I will say, too, like I mentioned, I'm an astrology girly. Looking into my kids' birth charts was a game changer for me, parenting-wise, because I think it helped me better understand them and then better know how to anything from discipline to helping them through hard times or understanding like, okay, like Beckham, he struggles a little bit in school. So just like understanding him more helped me with that. Whereas Isley struggles when we're not all together as a family. Well, I find out she has a lot of Libra in her chart. She is very much the family unit. Like, she hates when one of us are gone.
Aww.
Like, she wants us to always be together, the four of us all the time. And,
hopefully she'll stay near you. Like,
when
she grows up, she won't
she's
move
one
away.
that, I don't see her moving very far. Beck, he's
going to be a Miami Dolphin.
He's a Miami boy. Yeah, I'm wearing Miami for him today. But yeah, I would say astrology, looking into their charts, has really helped me understand them because Beck's a very emotional kid, and finding out that he's a Pisces moon, I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
I think that's kind of like in line with, I haven't done it yet because my girls aren't old enough, but I would recommend like looking into their love languages.
Yes,
because if your love language is not the way they receive their love, you want to make sure you're giving them the love that they like to receive. If you're not really a hugger or a physical contact, but they are, you need to make sure you're giving them that because that's how they are gonna.
That's so true because Beck is he's gifts, and like that is. I mean, he's kind of all of them, but gifts is like his main one. So finding that out, like I'll do little things like, get him a gold chain.
Oh my God. The person their gold chains.
Or like I'll get him new like football gloves and I'll just have him sitting on his bed when he gets home and he'll come out with just the biggest smile on his face. And like I can tell that he is like lit up with feeling loved at that point. And so, same with Isley. She's a totally different. She's more
probably quality time.
She is 100% quality time, which is great because I am too.
So am I.
So we really connect in that way, and that's great. Like anything that teaches you more about your children, is a parenting game changer.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and how to just give them love because you might be like, what? I don't understand like why you're not feeling loved because I'm always here with you, but maybe quality time is not their thing.
They're like, they need words of affirmation. Like you need to tell them that you love them or, whatever they need.
For sure. So I want to leave this on a high and a low note, or a high and a medium note, I guess.
High and a medium.
So kind of like a rose and a thorn thing. So what is one thing that you are super proud of as a parent, a mom, and what is something that you wish to improve on?
You want to go first or you want me to go first?
Do you know?
I would say like, I don't know if it's a thing that I'm proud of, but I would say like, my whole life, I'm gonna cry saying
I know.
That's okay.
Like, that's funny. I was like starting to tear up thinking about what
I feel like I cry anytime I talk about my kids.
Yeah,
so.
Fair.
Yeah. Like, I never felt like I had a calling, like a career or something. I was always like trying to figure out
a purpose.
Yeah. Like I always had friends growing up that like had a family business or like they knew from a young age, this is what I want to do when I get older.
Yeah.
I never had that. Like, and then when I became a mom, like I found myself.
Mm-hmm. You're going to make me cry.
Sorry.
I think it's really, because I feel like I've known you forever. And I mean, that really touches my heart, honestly, like hearing you say that. And I love that.
Sorry.
I mean, I've like, of course we don't live near each other anymore and distance happens between us, but I feel like watching you through social media, like I can see that. Like this was absolutely, you were meant to be a mom. Yeah. And I love that for you.
Thanks. You can go. You're positive now.
Let her collect herself.
I can clean myself up here.
I think just my high or my positive is I came from more of like a broken family element, I guess. So just when I got married, I was really nervous. Like, am I going to be able to be a good wife? And then am I going to be able to co-parent with somebody? Because, I mean, my mom and my dad got divorced when I was little, and they did not co-parent very well. And I have a wonderful stepdad, but it's just different relationship there. And so for me, it was like, I want to make sure that my kids see two parents communicating and working together and like both of them being there for them all the time and not being like one of them is always at work and one of them is always driving everywhere. Like, I am so proud that my husband and I can like, oh my God, I'm like,
it's okay. Now
maybe this wasn't the best, like,
yeah, this is not a high note.
I can demonstrate for them so they can see like a healthy relationship and a healthy parent dynamic.
In a unit.
Like, we are a team. We give each other hell like you would not believe. I mean, you would believe soon. but
that's good. It's healthy.
But yeah, no, it's healthy. But I'm so proud that they're going to grow up and get to be in healthy relationships, hopefully, as adults, because they've had like a good foundation.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Oh,
I guess now it's me. I'm nervous. So for me, I guess my high, like something I'm proud of as a mom is, I kind of, talking about yours, I come from, divorced parents, and being a mom was never part of my plan growing up. I maybe, playing as kids was like, oh, I'm a mom and these are my kids or whatever.
Yeah.
And like play pretend. But, as I became into high school and, 18, 19, like right before I found out I was pregnant, I was never like, I'm going to be a mom. It just wasn't like in my sights. And so finding out that I was pregnant at 19 was a utter shock to my life and to me for the longest time. And
for about 9 months.
Yeah, for about 9 months I was in shock. And so then, having my son, I was terrified. And I don't think I was terrified because, to be a mom. I think I was just terrified that like I was going to mess him up or like I was going to.
I think we all feel that.
I was going to be a divorced parent. The most common
mom thread.
Yeah. It was just like I was so terrified of that. And so for me, my like success story, my proud moments are looking at my children now and seeing like the people that they are becoming and who they are, and like just watching them grow, and I'm like, okay, I'm doing something right. And for them to be able to be excited and proud of me as their mom is huge too, because like even with starting this podcast, like my son just came home yesterday and he's like, Mom, my teacher said that they listened to your podcast. And I mean, but the look on his face, like he was just so proud that I was his mom. And for me, Jesus, now I'm going to cry. For me, it was like I was so scared that they weren't going to be proud to have me as a mom because I just felt like I'm just young and I'm, you know, I am the youngest all the time in any kind of school function we're doing. And so I'm just like, gosh, are they embarrassed that like I basically look like I could be their sister sometimes?
No.
And so, I would say that is kind of my proud moment and my moment or my thing that I want to work on and improve as a mom is being more present. I think a lot of times, especially if you're an entrepreneur or if you're just someone who's very career driven, it's so hard or it's so easy to not live in the present moment with your kids and just be so go, 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 go. And especially once your kids get old and they're in sports and they have activities and you're just like, get in the car. Oh my God, we got to go. It's practice. Your sister has to be here and you have to be here and your dad's working late and I got to go. And so, it's just taking moments that like when we're not crazy to like be in the present and just sit with them. And, you know, if it means playing Barbies and breaking my back sitting there on the floor for 20 minutes, I'm going to do it. Or if it means that I'm going to ride on the back of my son's four-wheeler because he thinks that that's entertaining to take me on the four-wheeler with him, you know, that's what it is. It's just giving them that part of me that sometimes they don't get that much because we are so go, go, go in today's day and age, really. Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay, I'll say my negative.
Okay.
What do I want to improve on? Now that I'm collected myself. And if you have to edit out my ugly cry, that's ugly voice.
Hey, it was raw. I said at the beginning, this is going to be real. It's going to be raw.
It was real raw. But I would say the thing that I want to improve on would be I am 100% a control freak. And I feel like being a mom is the least control you get ever. And sometimes that takes me to like, you know, like where you're like, I don't know, like you're screaming at your kid because they're not doing, you know, what you need them to do at that moment. But with mine, at least, they're little. They, you know, they're not listening. Their minds are going a mile a minute.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily locked in on what you're saying or what you have to do. Like you have to be at work in 20 minutes. They don't care.
Right.
And then you take it out on them.
Yeah.
So I need to stop and realize that I can't control everything they do.
Yeah.
And I need to let go of it.
That's good. I think that's something a lot of us can.
I feel that in personally, same.
Because I am very OCD and type A.
Yes.
I'm very like, you need to be on time. I mean, I think this morning I was going nuts getting them on the bus.
I literally, and then we got in the car and it was okay. And I was like, I love you, Layla. And she was like,
I know. And then you think back to everything. And
I know.
You're
like,
shit.
Yeah.
I'm really
like,
bad.
wow. I was yelling at her and she just had to get her shoes on. That's all.
Oh, the shoes.
God. Oh my God. I know.
The shoes.
I hate shoes.
Just keep them in the car.
I know, right?
Put them on in the car.
Well, I can't put them on in the car. I'm driving.
Right.
And they can't put their shoes on yet.
True.
That works for you.
That works for us.
Be in there.
A different story. So, I think my negative's kind of the same thing. Like especially now that they're older, when they were littler, it's a little bit easier, I think, to have some patience. But now that I'm like, you know exactly what I said. You know we got to leave in 5 minutes. You can tell, like, and then, you know, you get in there and he's on his tablet or whatever. And you're just like, what the hell? Just let's go. But you know, I've been his mom his whole life. I know he does not transition from this task to this task like I do. Like, okay, I turn that one off, I turn this one on.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Boys require a little more like.
I need to give him some more. I mean, just in general. I think I need to give everybody. I need to give everybody a little more grace.
Yeah, because Isley's like ready by the door. It's Beckham that's like.
OG too.
I'm gonna. I have to poop. And I'm like, God. What?
Every time.
Right now, you have to poop.
Hold it.
Yes.
And then it's like a 10-minute poop. It's not even like a.
It's right. No.
At least your kids poop.
Yeah, right.
I don't poop.
Oh, God. That's a problem for another day.
That's a whole other podcast.
That's a whole other problem.
We'll get there.
They'll hate me for saying that.
No, I think I just, giving more grace and just being like, okay, be a little bit more understanding about the way that
It's
they
okay
do
if we're
things.
Yeah.
It's okay if we're late.
We are late a lot.
We are too.
Hey,
all
we
the
call
time.
it Tharp time.
I know. We actually now call it Tharp time
Yeah.
at our house.
Everybody calls
Adam
it Tharp
will be like,
time.
we're not on Tharp time. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, Tharp time is 30 minutes after the time that you're supposed to be there.
Yeah.
So if we're like talking about Tharp time, we're like, oh, you have to be there at 7 p.m. Tharp time. So be there at 7:30.
Yeah. That's pretty much what we say
Yeah.
that too, but we say cop time. But
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no. That's all right. It's
Well,
all right. We
thank
get
you
there.
both
Thank
so
you.
much for
Thank
coming
you.
on. This has been a lot of fun.
was
Like
fun.
I love talking about my kids. I mean,
too.
they might hate it, but I love talking about my
Love
kids, and I feel like this is like my first time like really going on record with like all these different things.
Your
So,
stuff.
Yeah, it's been great, and thank you both for
No,
being here. And
was
maybe
fun.
Yeah,
I
it
mean we were
was.
talking right before
Dads.
this episode, dads.
yeah, we gotta
and,
have a dad episode.
and also talking about making this like a monthly thing,
Yeah,
like
have a mom
moms
episode.
with mimosas
There
on
we
a
go.
Monday.
Oh,
Perfect.
So
Perfection.
it might be a thing.
All
Let
right,
us know.
let's do it.
Let us know if you love the app, and it might become a thing.
All
so
right.
bye.
Let's share. Bye.
As always, I appreciate you all so much for listening. My goal is for these episodes to at least help one person in some aspect of their life. So if you like what you hear, don't forget to follow, like, subscribe to the show, as well as follow us on social media at Inside Voice Pod. Thanks.